Welcome to the Buddy and Shane Show.
Hello and welcome to the Buddy and Shane Show. Buddy Franklin, back off a big week. Nice haircut, actually. You got a nice better. Haircut. New look studio.
Absolutely. Look at it. Looks
ready
good.
to go. The thing about doing this podcast, we started the year by just wanting to talk about footy, supporting the players, supporting the coaches. And the thing is, you do the podcasts. We're coming to you from the Gold Coast, beautiful Gold Coast, and you go off into the hills and you drift away for the week. Whereas I get all these calls going, what on earth has Buddy said? Oh, my goodness. So we were obviously talking about the Blues. To be honest, you couldn't have been more measured and calm and to the point, and you were pointing out something that you were seeing from obviously watching the games and what was obviously attracting your attention. But, yeah, an interesting week, especially when you have an opinion on a coach and a team when they're not going so well, which was the Blues. How was your week? Did you get a bit of feedback?
No, Lance Corns was pretty good. No, it was an interesting week. There's no doubt about that. I think, I had my opinion, and that's what I firmly believed. I think that's the best decision for Carlton going forward, I personally think. But, I sort of stick by that. I think that's what I believe, and, that was my opinion, Crawl.
And there's nothing wrong with having an opinion, and do not ever shy away from that. Don't be pressured away from speaking and seeing it as you see it. We love the players. We love the coaches. We don't want to chop up off anyone's heads. We've been there ourselves as players. We haven't coached, but I've had coaches, maybe not you, but I've had coaches that have been sacked, and it's tough. It really is tough. And when you're trying to galvanise a team together, it just spirals out of control because everyone goes into survival mode. Everyone protects their own little area and thinks, I'll just play well and do my bit. But the team element certainly disappears. And that was one thing that the Carlton players did say on the weekend, that, no, we've got the support of we've got Michael Voss's back. But unfortunately against Port Adelaide, it didn't look like it. It was a lifeless performance, which was very alarming.
I think, they'd be disappointed with that. I think that's what they would have wanted to go out and play a lot better than what they did, and then to sort of dish up what they did in that first probably three quarters was really disappointing. And I'm expecting a big response this week, no doubt. They're back on the MCG against Collingwood, which is going to be a huge matchup. So I'm expecting them to come out this week and play for Vossi. You'd think they're going to have to, because if they don't get a response,
arch rivals Collingwood.
Arch rivals, it's going to be on.
Got to show some spirit, some fight,
Well, I think, they're going to have to, and I think they're going to play for Vossi. I think this week they're going to have to, and if they don't, then...
Surely you're not tipping them.
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not tipping them. I'm definitely not tipping them, but I think it will be a tight contest. There's no doubt about that.
Now, I love it when you are fresh out of the game. So you've played the modern game, and, I know you don't like me saying it, and I don't often say it to you, but you're going to be in the Hall of Fame. You're going to be a legend of the Hall of Fame one day, unless you really mess up off the field, but that's not going to happen. So you're an absolute icon to the game, and we need people like you staying involved in the game and expressing your opinions. And I love it when the older players and coaches buy into it, and especially during the week. We had Mick Malthouse who said, I don't know if Buddy needs to go into those areas. On top of that, he also made it a bit personal with an article that he wrote saying, Buddy, from memory, I don't think he was a big game player. And I'm like, what a load of crap. I can remember you kicking 7 and beating Adelaide by yourself. I can remember you kicking a bucket load of goals against the Bulldogs in a grand final for me, and my own personal memory when the Hawks won in 2-0. When did we win? 2-0-8. If you didn't play the role that you played on that day, and you were told by the coach, you won't kick a lot of goals today because you're going to be double teamed and you're going to be dragging those players out and creating space for Roughhead, for Stuart Dew, for Mark Williams. If that didn't happen, we wouldn't have won the game. So I just love it when the old players come in and say, I don't know if that's a space he should be in. I think it's definitely a space you should be in. And on top of that, you throw in Tony Shaw, who is a wonderful Collingwood player, a premiership Collingwood player. But But he's saying, I don't know if Buddy should be talking about coaches. Why can't Buddy talk about coaches? Can former coaches only talk about coaches being sacked or moved on? And I did have a look through, and I've done a bit of research. It's the only bit of research I've ever done on Tony Shaw. And as I said, he was a wonderful player, but his coaching record not so good. So I don't know if you know, Tony, he coached
update us,
Collingwood for about 4 years, 30 wins, 58 losses, 58. So that's 34%. So no finals. 96, they finished 11th. 97, there was 10 wins, 10th. 98, 7 wins, 14th. 99, 4 wins, lost 18, 16th, and obviously moved on. So I love it when the old coaches feel like they're the only ones that should talk about coaches, but maybe we should only listen to the coaches that have won finals and maybe won grand finals. No, that's not the case at all. I don't want to smash Tony Shaw. I just want to say that everyone, not only past players or current day players or past coaches or current day coaches, should have an opinion on football. Everyone should have an opinion on football. We love football. Football divides us all, brings us all together. And, I just think let Buddy talk if he wants to talk, and do not go into your shell, whatever you do. If you do, I'm going to have to punch you in the head.
Thanks, Shane.
And I don't like my chances because my shoulder's still a bit dodgy. Hey, I want to talk about the Blues a bit more.
Yep.
I just want to talk about their game from the weekend. So Paddy Cripps, should he have played? He was sick going into the match. Obviously, the Port Adelaide midfield were unbelievable. They just picked runners. They wanted to match them around the stoppage, and then like a school of fish, when a shark comes through the middle, they fanned and opened up and went in all different directions. Yeah, and that's where they got them.
Well, they did, and you could really see it on the television. The Port Adelaide midfielders were just explosive, running out of stoppages, and made Carlton mids probably look second rate. And that's probably been, for Carlton, that's that's their one wood, is their midfield. They're a pretty good midfield, especially in that contested ball style. But on the weekend, you could see that the numbers, they were just dishing the handball out and just bursting away from stoppages and made them look, as I said, second rate. So they'll be disappointed with that loss. So
Wiedering and Cripps, Wiedering had a bit of an ankle going in. Cripps was sick. He was isolated the day before. So what do you do there? Obviously, looking back now, they probably made a mistake from allowing them to play, but you can't trust the players to tell you if you're okay. You've got to back your medical staff to make those decisions, because playing at a game of AFL footy, especially as a midfielder, and be able to run like you normally run, and especially against Port Adelaide, there are a couple of mistakes, and they're big mistakes. But then again, there was a lot on the line for the club.
Oh, you can probably understand why he played. There's how many times throughout your career have you been sick and played? But as soon as you cross the white line, you've just got to compete and play. He's the captain of the club, and they're under pressure. The week they had, you can understand why he went out there and wanted to play and hopefully get the win for them. But yeah, it was a disappointing game for the captain, and obviously Wiedering. I don't know. I said earlier in the year he doesn't look right. And
you think he's been carrying a few things?
Yeah, I think it's early in the year. There's been some sort of injury that they haven't spoken about. I think they did say ankle, but I'm uncertain whether it's that. He just hasn't looked himself this year. So when you got your two leaders going into a game a little bit underdone, it can cost you. It can cost you because you need your leaders playing well in the big games.
Some are saying it looked like Tom De Koning is checked out. He's already backing his check, 1.7. I think that's a bit harsh because everyone was a bit flat on the weekend. Curnow, no goals again, although he tried really hard. It's hard to kick goals when your team's not moving the ball well. You're getting smashed through the middle, and as a forward, it's not that easy.
Well, this is what happens when you're losing. Everything gets questioned. All your leaders get questioned. Every player on your list gets questioned.
Your support staff, your support coaches, everyone is under the microscope.
Everyone's under the microscope. So, and then I think after the game, Vossi said that he was really happy with Curnow's game, which I thought was staggering. So I thought, if that's what you're expecting from your big man, there's a few big question marks there for me.
Yeah, so obviously with the Blues, and we've seen it with a lot of sides, they've been able to turn around with a bit of redirection and getting to the end of the year and then a bit of refocusing, maybe trading one or two players. So if you were looking at the Carlton list, is there a couple of players there you go, I'd love to try and get them to my football club? Because they're in a situation where I think they have to be brave and try things and do things a little bit different because they've tried a certain path, hasn't worked. They need more skill to come into the club. They need more kickers. And they've definitely got some of the talent on the list that they might be able to use as trade bait.
Well, yeah, I think this next few months are going to be very interesting to see what sort of direction they go, whether they trade out players, whether they just stick with the list they've got, back in what they're doing and just go, we're in this together and we're going to stick it out, or do they do a clean out, go to the draft, get new players in, get new coaches. These are the decisions they're going to have to make in the next few months. So it's going to be a very interesting what goes on.
The problem with the draft, they traded their first pick to Hawthorn. They chose Hawthorn, thought they'd finish, lower down the ladder, but unfortunately it's not working out. And the thing is, this is not a pile-on against the Blues because I think the competition is so much better when the Blues are playing well, We love it when the Blues are doing well. We've had a lot of people from Hawthorn that have gone to Carlton over the last few years. So there's always been a little bit of a soft spot and we sort of don't mind when they're winning and doing well. But since round 15 last year, they smashed the Cats and they were second on the ladder. Since then, they've gone 9 wins and 16 losses. So there's hardcore evidence, to say that something's not right. And we don't really know what that is. And they've only beaten one side in the top 8 since, and that's Geelong, which was in round 7 this year. Anyway, we'll move on for the Blues. Please, Blues this week, put up a spirited performance against Collingwood. Show some fight for your coach, and definitely don't go in protecting your own little space. Play together, and hopefully they can get themselves back on track. There's some coaches out there who deserve another chance. We've got Nathan Buckley, Adam Simpson, John Longmire. We're not saying that they're going to go and coach Carlton, but over the next year or so when, a team is looking for a coach, where would you go? You've got a great connection with John Longmire. I'm hearing
John is looking refreshed and strutting around at the Swans. So, I think those three, Buckley, Simpson, Longmire, three of the best coaches out there. And I think with Longmire, I can only speak firsthand of Longmire as he was my coach for 10 years down in Sydney, and he is first class. And, apparently he's looking refreshed. Whether he wants to take on another role as a senior coach, who knows? But I think he'd be a good acquisition to a club. There's no doubt about that. And then I think Adam Simpson was my forwards coach at Hawthorn back in the day. And you listen to him on Fox Sports or Fox Footy and the way he speaks, and he's first class. He knows his footy inside out, and I think, they'd be all great at a club.
It's interesting, especially from a coach. I applaud any coach that puts his hand up to be an AFL coach because there's so much pressure that goes with that. And I'm definitely not brave enough to go into that space or stupid enough. And you're very much the same, even though I still think you should definitely be involved with a footy club. I think you should be involved with the Gold Coast Suns up here. Well, come on, no, because it's so consuming. And that's where I sort of respect the coaches for throwing themselves into that sort of melting pot, which, and when it doesn't go right, it can, I had a lot of coaches sacked when I was playing. Like we had Peter Swab and Ken Judge and you just feel for them because, they're good people. They're trying their very best, but sometimes things just don't work out and sometimes you don't have the cattle to do all that. But when you look at Nathan Buckley, Adam Simpson and John Longmire, they're all wonderful contributors to our game and they're going to be awesome as coaches and hopefully they stay involved as a coach, moving into the future. Nathan Buckley, possibly Tasmania, Adam Simpson, who knows. But I think with Adam Simpson, I remember when he was fresh out of the game and I remember having a quick chat to him about coaching. What are you going to do? And he said he loves it. He just breathes footy, lives and breathes footy, and he wants to coach. And at the time, I think I'd just finished. And I said, you should give Alistair Clarkson a ring. I said, he's a different thinker. does things very differently. I think you'll learn a great deal from him. And I said, they're looking for an assistant coach right now. And by the end of the week, he was the assistant coach at Hawthorn. And then you fast track 3 or 4 years, and then he's over at the West Coast Eagles. So it's amazing how life works, you know, and you just got to take the opportunities. You got to put yourself in front of people when you can. And I'm sure those guys, even though they're probably saying in front of everyone at the moment, we're not going to go there, we're just, you know, having some time out. I can guarantee you behind closed doors, they're saying we're ready to go and if the opportunity presents itself.
And their premiership coach and both of them, Simpson and Longmire. So I think if you're down the bottom of the AFL ladder, you're definitely looking at those guys to help take your club back up the ladder.
Get them going. Let's have a look at the matches from the weekend. Let's start with the Bulldogs. 9-point victory over the Swans. The Swans are back. Goulden, Papley comes in. Goulden, he's unbelievable as a player. Like his composure and his kicking, just to identify. It's very hard to get the ball, be under enormous pressure, and then identify a kick that's only 30 metres away, but you've got players in front of you, opposition players putting pressure on, but he's able to put it pretty much wherever you want. And I imagine he used to do that when you were leading out from full forward. So the Swans look like they got their mojo, they got their key players back, and they're a different side.
No doubt, I think, and they just look more confident. I think having Papley back, having Errol back in the team, just looks like they've just got so much more confidence within themselves. As you said, Errol's just an incredible kick. He just makes things happen. But they didn't get the win, Croft, which was disappointing. And, you know, that was a big game. That was a game they needed to win to keep, hopefully, in finals contention. So they'll be really disappointed with that loss. I think Heaney, for me, was incredible. Kicked his 5 goals.
Did he touch it early?
Didn't touch it, but just hung in there and kicked 4 goals in the third quarter and just sort of turned the game back in their favour. But Bulldogs were incredible. Bont's 250th. They stepped up. They stepped up when they had to do it. And it was an amazing game to watch. It really was. It was really good.
Joel Freijah.
Yep.
However you want to say it. Mini Bont, 4 goals. And, he's turning into an awesome player. Darcy kicks a couple early. Looks like he's on track for 8. But then there's a bit of controversy around Darcy going into the ruck. Not controversy, but people are saying, why would he go into the ruck? But I think they had to change a few things because English, wasn't in the best of form, and big Brodie Grundy was having a great game. He was virtually putting it on the chest of the midfield. So I think they needed to change a few things. And I think third game in, back from being out for a while, I think it's okay for him. He's a ruckman. He's a bit of a game changer, and I think he can kick goals being in the ruck and then pushing forward. So, I think they're well placed. Norton started to get his hands on the footy, so I think they just created a bit more space for him to allow him to try and get himself into a bit of form. And I thought it was a good win because it was a pretty quick backup for them. And, I'm a bit worried about the Bulldogs going to the finals because I think they're going to win.
It was good by Norton. I think we've been critical of him this year just with the way he's played. That was his best game of the year. It was good to see him hit the scoreboard, I think took over 10 marks, which was great. But I think with Darcy going into the midfield as a ruck, I think it works because he's over 207 centimetres, so it actually works. I think you worry about guys that go into the ruck and they're a bit smaller where the ruckman can jump all over him. With him, he's a tall boy, so I think it makes sense. It gets him involved in the game and then he's able to go forward and kick goals. But as I said earlier, a couple of weeks ago, I think Bulldogs are the danger team of the comp. They've got guns all over. I think the only question mark is that back line. But if you're getting the ball forward and kicking goals, I think they're a danger going forward.
Yeah, and I think also with the Darcy going into the ruck against Grundy, because Grundy will really work around the stoppage and then try and, get forward and be dangerous. But you can't necessarily do that knowing that you're on Darcy because you know that if he's got any space moving forward, they're going to kick it to him. So it changes the mindset of the ruckman. And not only that, he's big body being able to compete at all the stoppages. Gold Coast, so your certainty bet was Melbourne. Although I reckon Melbourne would have won if they had started this game reasonably well. But 19-point victory. So my side, the Gold Coast Suns, they're headed for the finals, maybe even their first premiership. But it was good. Humphrey, Walter, Long, King all kicked some goals. Melsham, 5 goals, 6.
It's a big game. It's a big. Imagine kick straight.
Pickett,
10.
25 and 3. The disposal through the midfield, Melbourne, really let them down. But apart from that and their first quarter, they were pretty good.
Yeah, I thought that, obviously that start of the game, that's what cost them. They were in the game. But I think Gold Coast, they got the win, but I think there'll be parts of that game they'll look at and go, that we need to improve, because they gave Melbourne opportunities to come back. And if they had a kick straight, they would have nearly gone close to winning it.
Yep.
But yeah, they did what they had to do. Gold Coast got the win. As I said, Melbourne, it's been an up and down year for them. They've played some good footy at times, lost some games they probably should have won. But I think they're on the right path, these. Even though they did lose, I think they've still got some really good players there.
Because some are saying, it's been a disastrous season for them. And they did start slow, but then I think they've been highly competitive through the middle. But you can't go interstate and start poorly. No matter who it is that you're playing interstate, you've always got to be in the game early. You got to try and, even though the crowd at the Gold Coast Suns, that's not a huge factor, but you got to try and eliminate that as much as possible. You got to be in the game early, get the confidence up, and starting a game like that, you just got no chance of winning.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to, when you're interstate, you need to start really well, and they'll be really disappointed. I think what Ben Dixon said, it looks like they were on there thinking about their footy trip already in the first quarter. I had a bit of a laugh at that, but yeah, they'll be really disappointed with that. As I said, Gold Coast got the win, and they move on now. I think, what are they in 6th position, which is they're back in the 8, Crawf, so they could be looking like they're playing finals.
They got Essendon twice on the run home, which is a young Essendon with a lot of injuries, so that's probably 8 points definitely. I'll be amazed if it's not. They're not far off. Lever didn't play. He was dropped. He's been a very good player for them. May, Oliver, even Petrarca wanted to leave last year. It's an interesting period. So I know we've given the Blues not a belting. We've just virtually told you how it is. But Melbourne's in a similar position. So they can get quite aggressive in the trade period because they've got senior type players who've been wonderful players. They're history-making players. They've won a premiership. But, you got to rejuvenate the list. So they're going to have to try and work out which levers to pull.
Well, I wouldn't be trading. You keep May there. I think you got to get Oliver a little bit fitter. I think that's a big thing. Get him fit in the off-season, because I think when he's fit, he is a dangerous player. But if I was Melbourne, I'd be sticking with what I've got there. Maybe bring in maybe a couple more kids, but I'd be sticking with what I got there. Get everyone as fit as possible. I think when they're fit, they are a dangerous team, and I think just keep it as is at the moment.
Keep it as is. The Hawks smashed North Melbourne, 85 points. It's so disappointing, North Melbourne. I tell you what, if that happens again, Clarko, you're gone. They're playing for the Alistair Clarkson Cup. It's so disappointing. Like, they'd worked so hard over a small period to build up a bit of trust and a bit of respect, and then to lose like that, they were just smashed. The Hawks coming off the bye, so they're fairly fresh, but they also handled the bye really well. Your man, Jack Gunston, 7. He was looking to take your record down, which was 13, so he wasn't far off. Chol had 5. Still have a lot of players out, so the depth is strong. Box Hill are going well. And
it was a huge win. I think North Melbourne are disappointed with that. 85 points. They've done so much right this year. I think they obviously haven't had as many wins as they would have liked. They probably lost 6 or 7. They probably were right in the game. So to lose by 85 points with all sort of undoes a little bit of work they've put in this year. But yeah, to have, I think the question mark has been obviously not North Melbourne's midfield. I think their backline, North Melbourne's backline, can cost them. When you've got Gunston kicking 7.
They're all getting pay rises last week, and now this week they're being moved on.
Well, when you've got Gunston and Chol kicking 7 and 5, I think that's the area they're really missing. They need key defenders. Also, maybe bring in someone from another club with a bit more experience.
Maybe
to
that's
help
where
them
they
up.
can tap into Melbourne and a few of their key defenders.
Maybe.
And just try and get a Stephen May out or whoever it might be, someone that they feel might be best for their list. The Wizard Watson goes into the middle, kicks an amazing goal, coming through the middle and then following up. But, just pulling different levers through the middle and changing the look up, a bit like Pickett at Melbourne. Watson goes in there, adds a bit of energy. The fringe players for Hawthorn really stood up.
Yeah.
North Melbourne, it's only a 5-day break into their 100-year celebration against the Bulldogs. They need to be better. We want them to be better. We don't want one-sided matches, and I just hope that they put up a decent effort. They don't have to beat the Bulldogs, but I just want them to be competitive. It's going to be a Thursday night match. Larkey was good, but apart from that, they had a lot of players missing in action. Not good enough. Collingwood got the job done against a refreshed West Coast Eagles. When you look at the West Coast Eagles, it's about 4 or 5 stars of their team that have been retired or out. It wasn't a bad effort. They played pretty well. Once again, Nick Dacos had plenty of the ball. Pendlebury just turning back time. Baker for the West Coast Eagles was really good, but Collingwood played some young kids, changed their lineup a little bit. I know the coach said, listen, it's, we're sort of getting away from the basic things that have made us really good, but do we really care? They got the 4 points.
Well, they got the 4
move
points,
on.
yeah. They got the 4 points, did what they had to do. I think when they needed their guns to step up, they did. Both Dacos boys stepped up again. Pendlebury played really well, but they're just doing what they need to do at this time of the year. I think when you play deep into finals every year as they do, I think this time of the year can be a little bit of a struggle mentally to get yourself up. It can be a bit of a grind. So they're probably finding that on the weekend that opposition are going to come at them, which they are now every week, and they're being hunted. So that's what's coming. But yeah, both Dacos boys turned it on when they needed to do it. Pendlebury was great again, and then side bottom, they just keep getting better, don't they?
At mid-season recruit, Tom McCarthy, head 29. So I tell you what, they found a player there. And what I loved about Collingwood's win is still side bottom had 10 tackles. So I'm like, you got a player he's been one of the all-time greats, but he's still got the right attitude, and tackling is an attitude. So I love that. And they got the Blues next week. So it'll be interesting to see if they bring a few back in or they still keep going with the young kids, and whether or not Craig McRae wants to look after his premiership captain in Michael Voss, or they're going for the jugular. And
Don't
bringing
rest him. Don't rest him. No, that is going to be a huge game, as we said earlier on, but that's going to be massive.
What a way to bounce back for Carlton. Imagine if they can knock off Collingwood. That'll quieten everyone for a week.
Of the week.
Oh, surely not. Adelaide smashed Richmond, 68 points. Your man, Phil Thorpe, the big man Mountain, he kicked 5. Michael Annie, he kicked 3, pushing forward, which was good. Their midfield too strong. It was too easy at times. Richmond's, when they did get their hands on the footy, their delivery inside the forward line wasn't great.
Yeah, this one was hard to watch, really. Sit there and watch this game. It was
and not great for Tom Lynch, because Tom, you can see as an older player, when your body doesn't do things that it used to, and not only that, when the ball's being delivered like it is, and you've been in that position as a forward, how difficult is it to mentally stay focused, to not lose the plot, not want to punch someone in the head? How difficult is it?
Yeah, you definitely feel for Tom. Obviously, what he did was unacceptable, and you don't want that in the game, but you really do feel for him. I think he's gone from playing in premierships, playing deep into finals, playing in front of huge crowds at the MCG, and then playing against Adelaide, getting smashed by 68 points, have 3 players hanging off you, one blocking your run. I can understand there's a lot of frustration there for him, and it's a transition for him, really. He's gone, as I said, playing grand finals to being down the bottom of the ladder. It's tough. It's a tough position to be in for him.
And being a coach, you're meant to be a coach out there. He gave 5 free kicks away, and he's meant to be sort of placing all the younger guys in the right positions and so forth, but obviously getting extremely frustrated, especially with the delivery. which doesn't help.
He'd be kicking himself that he let it get to that point where he's done that. But I do feel for him at times. There's no doubt about that.
It's always very tough. Who was I? Dan Curtin was very good. He's really developing into a very good player. Fremantle, 12 points over the Saints. Had a good last quarter. The Saints were very good all game. They've found a player in Alex Taru, the Viking, in his second game. He had 14 spoils, which is a record. So
record what?
How many spoils do you reckon
forever.
you had during your time? Did you ever spoil the ball?
Absolutely, mate. When I got a little bit older, my last couple of years, that's what it got to, just spoil Lance instead of marking.
I reckon they should have played you in the back line. But, they've got some good young players coming through the Saints, which is good. They put up a good effort, obviously, at Fremantle against, a side that Ross Lyon knows very well, obviously coached for a long time. But to Fremantle's credit, the two ruckmen come together in the last quarter and combined well. Yep. Jackson kicks a couple of goals. That was sort of the difference where everyone has been at Darcy and Jackson being in the same side all year. But it was a winning combination, especially late in the game.
Yeah, I've had my question marks on whether that combination can work. I think it's better with just Jackson one out as the main ruckman. I think that just works better. But there's still a few question marks. But they're looking very dangerous, Fremantle. They've had a really solid few weeks. This week at the SCG is going to be a big challenge. They come across there. Sydney are in really good form. So I think that's going to be a massive game for Fremantle. They've got to come across here and win into Sydney. 6
in a row, feeling good about themselves. Marshall was really good for the Saints, and he really got his hands on the footy a lot, especially against Jackson in the middle. So maybe that was, I suppose it depends on the matchup from week to week. You're listening to the Buddy and Shane Show for AIA Australia, a life, health and wellbeing insurer with a commitment to helping Australians lead a healthier, longer, better lives. We are the number one podcast right around the country when it comes to sport. We're just making that up.
Controversial, though.
No, it's now time for
Buddy's Young Star of the Week, thanks to the new Kia Tasman, landing mid-2025.
I don't know how to pronounce this. Is it Joel Freijah or Freezer or Joel
Mini
Freijah.
Mini Bont, yeah. No, he's an incredible player, and I'm sure everyone gets his last name mixed up. But Mini Bont, you're talking about?
Yeah, Mini Bont.
Tell me about him.
Well, no, I think, to do it on the big stage on a Friday night, to deliver that performance when, especially in Bont's 250th, to step up, kick 4 goals, he looked unbelievable. He looked incredible. He's only 19 years of age, this guy, and to be doing what he's doing, especially on the big stage, he delivered, and he's got a great future ahead of him for sure.
So he was picked 45 in the 2023 draft from Western Victoria, which is a steal looking at what he's been doing. His nickname is Mini Bont. He had 23 touches, 4 goals. He's only played 28 games. He can play midfield, wing, forward, and he's definitely tracking to be a superstar and a future star. That was Buddy's Young Star of the Week, thanks to the Kia Tasman, the most Australian Kia ever developed. Built tough, tested hard, and ready for anything. Whether you're hauling, towing, like Buddy, or taking the road less travelled, the Tasman is made for the job. The Kia Tasman, it's here now. And you might even see the big Bud cruising around with his surfboard in the back.
I'm yet to get it, but it's around.
What would you have in the back of the ute? If you,
what would I have?
You'd have your bike,
I'd have
your
my
running
surfboard,
shoes,
my
your
Mel.
surfboard. You've never surfed in your life, so that's a lie. You'd have your Mini Mel. Yeah.
I would.
Okay. Hey, Tom Liberatore plays his 250th game. We love the way he goes about it. Good luck to him. North Melbourne, 100-year celebration against the Dogs. Hopefully they put up a good effort. Just off the top of your head, some of the good North Melbourne players, or some of the players that you've loved watching over the time, either you've played against or even before that when you used to watch on the TV when you were a little buddy growing up. Is there any? I've got a couple that
we've got a few. We've got Mr. Longmire.
Oh, yes.
What did he kick? 98
Was it? Yeah.
As a 19-year-old, kicked 98 goals.
And what was it in his last game? He kicked
2-8. So unfortunately, Big Horse couldn't kick 100. So he made one day.
That must haunt him forever, really.
You think so?
Did you ever have a word to him about that and said, listen,
yeah, so mate, you'll get there one day. You'll get there one day. But no.
You went in the head, yep.
So kick 2-8.
Is that why you never took any kicking advice from him?
Absolutely, mate. Have you seen the way he kicked?
He said, mate, I'll do my thing. You do your coaching. Any other players?
We can't go past Wayne Carey. He was obviously one of the greatest player of all time. So him.
For me, he was the best player that I've ever played against. For sure. I love, Glenn Archer, because he'd just run through a brick wall.
Yeah.
He really would for the football club. Didn't care who you were or who the opposition was. He was just prepared to do anything.
Harvey.
Yes, Boomer Harvey, games record holder, of course.
Yep, they've got a...
they're the ones. And then I played on Anthony Stevens a lot, who was a real sort of run with and just left it all out there. You know, I loved his attitude and the way they went about it. And back early when I started, North Melbourne were hard to play against. And they had what was called Pagan's Paddock. So they used to empty out their forward line, which was a bit before their time. And then they would just, on a fast play, then all the big tools would go streaming into the forward line, and it was almost impossible to stop. So good luck, North Melbourne, in your 100-year celebration. Please put up a good effort.
No doubt they will, Shane. No doubt they will.
All right. Well, that's it. You've been listening to the Buddy and Shane show for AIA Australia, a life, health and wellbeing insurer with a commitment to helping Australians lead healthier, longer, better lives. A new haircut, so that must mean a new focus this week. Or you must be ready to do something. Maybe you don't want to talk about it.
Podcast.
Just the podcast.
Yeah, just a new haircut.
Are you enjoying doing the podcast? Are you enjoying?
I am.
Are you enjoying?
A little bit rusty today, but I think the Voss stuff sort of rattled me a little bit.
You reckon
but
you got rattled?
Sort of finding my feet again.
But there was no viciousness in it. It's just like you're talking about footy. Everyone talks about footy. They do it on radio every day. They talk about all different subjects. So, but you are enjoying talking a bit of footy, aren't you?
No, it's been good. I think I was
people
uncertain whether I was going to do this. You know,
what, today?
Today.
He's gone forever.
But no, I was uncertain whether I was going to do this. Obviously, it's putting yourself out there. There's no doubt about that. And that's something that I've never been huge on or done any media. So this is a big thing for me. So, I'm enjoying it. It's been good. Talking a bit of footy. It's been nice.
I did have a laugh because I thought when we started this, it's like we don't want to be front page, back page news. We just want to talk footy and show our love for the players and coaches.
You know, and
then this week was a bit different. I couldn't stop laughing a week when I shouldn't be laughing because my shoulder hurts.
But this is the thing. Like for me, being like I understand that people I've been in that position as a player where there's media and speculation on you pretty much throughout my career. So I know it can be annoying, but this podcast has never been about putting shit on people. Like it's just our opinion. So you touched on it earlier in the podcast anyway, but people have got family members, you've got kids, we understand that and it affects everyone, but it's just our opinion and there's no hard feelings.
Yeah, and we're not always right. Although we're pretty good on this podcast without tipping, and I tell you what, we don't get things wrong very often. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.